You are live.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to call the March 23rd OCTAX Coordination Committee to order. I need a motion to approve the February 23rd minutes. Motion made by Supervisor Runyon, seconded by motion made by Supervisor Turner, seconded by Supervisor Runyon. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Privilege of the floor and public comment. Gary?
Good afternoon, everyone. Gary Thornquist, the Lake George RV Park. I need to indulge you for a minute just to, I would like to read the occupancy tax law based on the disposition of revenues portion. This is from resolution number 368 of 2015. I know you're aware of the law in this room, but a lot of people that are watching this meeting may not be aware of the specific law and disposition of revenues. All revenues resulting from the imposition of the tax under this local law shall be paid into the treasury of the county of Warren and shall be credited to and deposited in the general fund of the county, thereafter to be allocated only for tourism promotion and tourist and convention development, provided, however, that a portion of such revenue may be specifically allocated to the expense of the county administering such tax. The revenues derived from such tax, after deducting the amount provided for administering such tax, shall be allocated to enhance the general economy of County of Warren and its city, towns, and villages through the promotion of tourist activities, conventions, trade shows, special events, and other directly related and supported activities. The amount retained by Warren County with respect to administering said tax shall not exceed 3% of the revenues collected from the imposition of this tax. I read that law to you because I was around when it wasn't enacted in 2004. And we fought very hard to get this tax enacted, and we fought with a lot of businesses to get this tax enacted. And it was very specific as to what it was to be spent for. I realize there's a resolution on the floor today for the Civic Center. I know it's called something else now, but I call it the Civic Center still. It's an engineering study. It is not, in my opinion, related whatsoever to tourism at all. It's a study in engineering. It's not to put heads in beds. It's not to, for promotion. Anything that's in this law that's stated here, it doesn't address. I've read the actual, the submittal, the form from the Civic Center. It doesn't address anything having to do with tourism whatsoever. And I've done some research on the Civic Center, and basically the Civic Center was purchased for $1 million by a private group way back from the city. Since then, it's received $700,000 in capital costs from the OCTAX. It's received $2,750,000 for promotion, which is fine. Promotion is in there. For a total of $3.7 million altogether. There's also was a $250,000 for Heritage Hall renovation as well. I realize the cap cost contract has already been approved. It runs through 2029. But from looking at the Civic Center's website, I see one event in May, May 27th. Elmo's Got the Moves, a one-day event. There's no other events that are listed on the website. Maybe I'm incorrect. Maybe there's more events going on. There's nothing listed on the website till I believe there's a rodeo probably in November. There's over 200,000 people here that come to this area in the summertime that stay at our accommodations that need something to do. We try to provide them with events, things to do. I don't believe the Civic Center is providing them with anything to do during that time period. No disrespect to the Civic Center or the people that run the Civic Center. They do a very good job in running the Civic Center. But that board that runs the Civic Center is made up of very well connected, smart people, business leaders in this area, and they will find a way to get that $200,000 to cover that engineering study in another way. A lot of times with this committee, people come here first because it's kind of the easy money to get. from this committee. There's not a lot of strings attached and there's not a big, long application to get the money. So I would be in favor of defeating this resolution just based on the fact that it does not at all come close to what the law was intended for or what the law states. There's a few people in the room that were around when that law was enacted. Supervisor Garrity is here. He was there back then. He knows that it was a very hard fought battle to get that occupancy tax law in place, and we made a lot of concessions to get it. And we were very careful to try to get the language strict enough so that this kind of, so it's spent in an appropriate way, I guess, towards tourism and towards expanding tourism. One final note before I be quiet is that basically we had a lackluster season last year. It's looking like a lackluster season this year as well with all the challenges that we have. We need promotion. I'm sure Heather would be glad to have $200,000 extra in her budget to promote. Gina would as well. I think the money needs to be put towards promotion and promotion only at this point. So I would strongly encourage this committee to defeat this resolution. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Anybody else like?
Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Thurston. I am the Chief of Staff to Mayor Diana Palmer in Glens Falls. She sends her regrets, was hoping to get to this meeting, and we're hoping to get her scheduled to another one of either these meetings or maybe the full county council. I just came by to sort of introduce myself and say hello. And to say thank you for the support that the occupancy tax has given to the city thus far. We are, I guess you could say, upping our game, our tourism game. We are we're getting very close to having the events downtown center fully up and running. We've got an RFP out for someone to help us manage that facility. We, of course, have been working with the BID and with the collaborative and other groups to bring in these to bring tourism to the area, to Glens Falls. And I'm just here to say thank you for the support. And I hope to see it keep coming. I also have to say thank you to Paul and Jessica and Heather, who are here, and they've been helping us enter into the county's portal to make our system a little bit more streamlined and to be able to make our ability to communicate with the county a little bit more streamlined, not to repeat myself, but the whole process is now a lot more streamlined, we hope. Anyway, just wanted to say hello. You can always reach out to me. Again, I'm Steve Thurston. I am the Chief of Staff to the mayor, and thank you again for the support.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve.
Do we say a few words?
Lori got your hand up first.
Thank you so much, Laura Coles, on behalf of the Courtyard Bear Marriott, Marine Village Resort, and the other Kenny properties in the market. I was just going to read into the record the email that I sent to Supervisor Stroh and Supervisor Cressito on March 10th regarding just a couple comments on a couple different items that are coming up for vote or funding. Please accept this email as a vote against the funding for the Civic Center's request for $200,000 in occupancy tax to conduct an infrastructure study. This purpose, while I'm sure needed, does not fit in with the focus of OCTAX and marketing promotion for our region. I'm also aware that Lake George TV is up for potential renewal. While this was a good idea when RFPs were requested to come up with new ideas for promotion several years ago, I do not see the return on the investment, do not support this project on behalf of our properties. Finally, I also heard that there's a potential Ironman event looking at a 3-year contract for 27, 28, 29 in early June. Fantastic that our area is in strong contention to bring this to the market, and OCTAX would be a good way to support. In general, if anybody ever wants to reach out, I know Supervisor Wild and I have spoken a couple times. I've submitted some studies and have done effectively star reporting on the 17 properties that we do operate for close to 1,000 room nights in the market. And we are very open to sharing that data and trying again to help the community move forward strongly in tourism. We've been in the market for over 40 years. We plan to be here another 40 years. So I really am a big supporter of everything that has allowed my kids to go to college, my father to build different properties that he's like to be involved in the market. So certainly we are supportive of anything that can be done to help continue to improve the way Octex is spent and move the market forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Ed?
Well, on behalf of the Adirondack Civic Center Coalition and the Hockey Board, actually Jack is here, and we purchased the arena, the right to purchase the arena for $600,000. I mean, just to quantify and make that clear. And we paid it off over 4 years. So, and the economic impact study, which we gave to you folks 2 years ago, I believe shows $22.2 million direct income to effect on the city, of which the OC tax and sales tax bring in about $1.2 million a year directly to the county and the city. So that certainly offsets the $250,000 that has been given if you just take that $900 to $1 million. So, and me personally now, when you look at downtown and where it's come and what it's come to with all the apartment complexes coming, all that directly, in my opinion, affects the impact of our community, our region, from hockey to people eating downtown and if people come downtown, they come up to the lake. So I think it has a powerful effect. And you know, does it affect tourism? I think it does. I think people come to the city. The basketball games are huge. What comes to Jeff has we'll talk about how many things we have going on this year. And it's funny when you mention a website. We are upgrading our website, and we have a new fellow that's on our, which you know well, Ryan Moore, has come on board on our staff. So there's a lot of good things there. I know it's questionable. These things, the OCTAX is always questionable, but it's our belief down there that we've made an impact on our community in a great, great way, an impact on our town. Jeff, you want to speak about it?
Yeah. Well, obviously, I do submit all the events that are happening at the arena quarterly to the supervisor, so I think they're always publicly available. Not all the events that do happen do make the website unless they're ticketed for on sale to the public. They're typically not on the website, just to answer I think a question that was mentioned earlier. But we do have well over 150 events a year that do happen at the building. Like over 250,000 people do come to the building every year. So, and again, regarding the engineering study, if we do not get the new mechanical room in the next couple of years, again, I mentioned this last month, not to alarm you all, but if we can't produce ice, the hockey team goes away and there's no building. Then as Ed mentioned, the $21 million economic impact that we do have in Warren County, it could go away. So I think it's pretty critical that we do get this new Ice Pro chiller system in the building in the next couple of years. So again, we're always happy to answer questions. So thank you.
Questions from the board? I got a next question for you. Can I?
Probably wait till you get to the end.
Okay, I will. I'll wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? We'll move on. First, resolution request to award the Adirondack Civic Center Coalition $200,000.
Bring it to the floor.
Motion made by Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor Strow. Any further discussion?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Supervisor Wild, yep.
I'm in full support of the Civic Center. I know I did some quick math. Since 2015, it's probably approaching $4 million that we've provided. My concern is not the design phase, it's the construction phase. And it looks like available funding and grants is $1 to $2 million, and it's $4 to almost $7 million to complete the project. So I think about this and say, if we can't come up with more grants funding, then why would we spend $400,000 or so on a design study that might just sit on the shelf for a couple of years because there's no financing to help move it forward. So I would really like to understand more about what phase 3 is going to be, how that's going to be funded, and what the expectation is of Warren County and our act tax.
You want me to add?
Well, it's up to the chairman.
I don't
But-
know. Okay.
We have,
Go to the podium if you don't mind, please.
we have every intention of looking for grants. We just put in Jeff got the papers in last week, meaning, first of all, we need grants. That's how we have to get this, through grants, through whether it's through the help of Warren County, we're looking for grants, the help of the city, looking for grants. Jeff, we just finished up with the help of Ryan and some other people, putting an application in for Schumer, who has grants out for, Jeff, what's the limit on the grants? Or is up to how much?
Senator Schumer's, congressional, directed spending for 2027, Zeke Gowdy's, helping with that last week.
How much was the grants though?
We have $6 million.
That's the, right. So, and so we're doing that. We know we have to find other sources. Believe me, we are out there, but we need to do this for one huge reason. The ice in there was put in 1999, I believe. It failed shortly after it opened, and it was a second one was put in. All the mechanics are gone. They're dead. It's costing us $450,000 to $500,000 a year just to keep that furnace system and heating system going. If it goes down, we'll have a problem. So there's a real urgency here. But to your point, absolutely, we need grants, we need everything else. And that whole study, to be honest with you, we needed to start that and get that going. But we are going out in the street to see if we can, when I say the street, I mean to contracts and so forth, to see if we can reduce that cost significantly. And we believe we can. You know, well, that's what we did when we did the Heritage Hall and other projects we've done them in-house and cut that cost tremendously. So if that answers your question to some degree, or happy to move further.
Actually, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I don't think it really did answer my question because those grants, there's no guarantee. Right, so if we do help support this with $200,000 and the grant funding doesn't happen, I recognize there's a financial impact to our whole community for that not happening. But knowing what I know about the Warren County budget, there's no way we can come up with significant money, whether it's OCTAX or someplace else, to support that construction phase.
And we
That's the level it happened. So
and that's in the back of our heads. Don't misunderstand. We know we may not get this or may not get that. We understand that. But we're going to go on the street and we're going to work our butts off to get it. And we will get it. We will get it. We will find a way. We have to. Otherwise, that arena goes down. It's just something like saying, I don't have the money to pay the mortgage. I have to go out and shovel snow to go pay the mortgage. It's one of those things. If we don't get that in, and we have to find a way. What the end result answer is, where and how and exactly, we don't know. But we have to start someplace.
So could we, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind,
Sure.
could we delay this resolution for a couple of months for you and your team to figure out what kind of grants are available, what the feedback is on your request, and whether something like that is realistic?
Well, we need to get the drawings ready. We can't go to grants until, you know yourselves, without drawings. And this money is going for all that, what you read in there, all the second phase of all these drawings, that $400,000. The city has already given us $200,000. They've given us, they supported this. It's in our checking account. So we can go and get this design done. That's just a preliminary focus. We need design so we can go, say if it's Schumer, and give them a set of plans. Say, here's what's going to be done. Here's how it's going to be done. This is the cost. So this is a phase that we need to do to move in the further direction. It's like building a house. Unless you have plans, you can't build a house. Unless you get a stamp, you can't build a house.
Supervisor Stroud?
Yes, well, being familiar with grants, that's the truth. If you can't apply for a grant unless you've done the preliminary work. In other words, here's the design, here's where we have to go, here's the estimated cost. You need that. You have to have that to apply for a grant. That's a given. So I understand that. The other thing, you know, I do have a problem with spending act tax money for capital development. But I also believe that you gotta look at this individually at each request. What would our little world be like without the Civic Center? You know, you have $22 million plus economic impact. That's substantial. Where else are they gonna get the money? I mean, you can't burden the city with trying to get more money, with the Civic Center. I have that old habit too. You can't burden them. I mean, the city is already burdened enough with enough things. And the Civic Center has a regional impact. It isn't just the city, it's Queensbury, it's Warrensburg, it's Lake George, it's Town of Monroe, it's even Saratoga. It has a regional impact. So you think, where else are they gonna get the money? You're really limited. So I will support this proposal. And I agree with Laura Cole. I got, you know, this capital expenditure with act tax. It's a tough issue. But you look at it holistically and you gotta come back around. You gotta support the Civic Center.
Thank you, John.
Supervisor Wild?
We keep on hearing about the economic impact, 22 million. How much of that comes from tourism versus the locals?
I know that bottom line is about $1.2 million to Warren County through bed taxes. It's on that report. The direct impact of the 22 through OC tax and sales tax is $1.2 million.
160 jobs. But we can get that full report to you that does have all the information inside of it.
So annual economic impact is over $1 million?
Yeah, Jack, you have the study right there, right?
Okay.
We're sorry, we apologize. We should have had that in the portfolio. Should have done that.
Look at last month's,
It wasn't last one. You did put it in.
Yeah, Supervisor Patchett?
Yeah, when we say 1.2 million, so it'd be 1.2 million times 4%, which would give us our OC tax, is that what we're saying?
That I
Of your
know,
production of occupancy tax, 4% of the 1.2 would be the correct. Like what you contribute yearly.
well, that I don't know. They're saying that's a direct impact from tax and sales tax and OC tax. That's total amount. How they break that down. When you pay 7% tax, what you're talking about, the county gets 4%. But this isn't that. This is direct financial impact out of the 22 million that comes down based on both those numbers. And it's in that report if you look.
Just so the committee is clear, on this report, it says 1.2 million includes sales tax, OC tax, and property tax. All three
Property tax.
for 1.2 million. It would be interesting to see a breakdown of that. I don't know if Amy has that, but.
Well, I'm
it
sure we
includes
have that in
property
full
tax. I don't
report.
know how you calculate that.
We can give you the full report. We have a full thick report and we can give that to you.
Supervisor Runyon?
I think what's happening here is they're just requesting that we match what the city of Glens Falls has already approved. And without that, the grants will be very hard. They'll be impossible to do. And then you also have to think about all the people who do come. Where are they going to go if that closes? They're going to go somewhere else. They're not going to be here. Hockey teams, where are they going to go? It's not going to be here. So I support this.
Supervisor Turner?
I just want to go back to some of the things that Supervisor Stroud was saying and that you just brought up also. And you know, what would happen to our communities around here if we didn't have the Civic Center? I own just a small lodging facility, and this past weekend I had people that came specifically to go to a hockey game. I mean, it keeps me up and going all winter long with just that small little income that I receive from people coming to go to hockey games or shows at the Civic Center and the Queensberry Hotel. You know, we all rely a lot on the tourism that the Civic Center brings in and the impact that it would have. I just couldn't imagine if we didn't support this and let them continue to get that grant money.
You know, if I can just further interject, is if you come down to the arena on a Friday or Saturday night, there's 4,000 to 5,000 people walking in that town, walking around, going to restaurants, going to have a beer, going to here. How many of those people come for the first time and they come back again? Just like they do when they vacation in Lake George. We have to come back here again. It's amazing. So I think all those little things, the point add up, and and downtown is thriving, and those restaurants are thriving, and more people are coming in. I think it's a part of the equation, and not here that just to sell. If I was sitting in your seats, I'm telling you, it's a part of the equation. So it probably makes sense.
And what's the revenue of the Civic Center? I think I asked last month, and was 9 million correct? Was that?
Gross?
Yeah, gross, yeah. What are the expenses? How close is it to breaking even? And how do you get it to that point?
Well, that's about 9.2, so.
About 9.2?
And you know, the apartments that are rented for the hockey teams and all this type of stuff, and people living here, there's residual effects that constantly go on.
Really, anytime, I got mentioned this many times, anytime we have a good year, make money, all the money, the extra money going right back into the building.
So you lose about 200,000 a year, and that's including the 250 that the county and another 100 for the capital improvement.
With the tax money you give us, we're basically, we break.
You could break even with that,
There's no question.
but you have no capital reserve per se set aside
So
with some.
anytime we make money like 23, 24, we had a really good year when the hockey team had a deep playoff run. We took all that money and just invested it back into the building. Made a lot of it went to bathrooms, we bought a new Zamboni ice reserve. So anytime we have a good year, we pour all the money back into the building.
Right, talking to me. Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just one more, and it's more for the committee, and for the other supervisors. There's things that come before us like this that are deserving of our support. The problem is we don't have the ability to weigh one over the other, right? So we have so many different requests that come in, and how do we gauge which one should be number one, which one should be number 500, which means they don't get anything. We do this in piecemeal. And Mr. Chairman, I think you and I will talk about this maybe in the future, but we need to find a way to maybe coordinate this so that we could all get together and make decisions on a high level on all the things that come in front of us, not all of them, but the majority of things that come in front of us, so we can budget accordingly for it. As I've mentioned before in the past, what happened during COVID and what happened with the short-term rental money that we were able to increase our revenues with, it hasn't really moved the needle for tourism. So hopefully we can find a way in the next few months, maybe to present some options for the committee to look at and decide
I agree with
what's the better direction for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Supervisor Wild, you made a suggestion to table this. Is that open for discussion, or we got a motion on the floor right now?
You know, I think, although I'd rather see that happen, I think I'm just gonna go with what the committee decides here. I'm not going to push this off. I think there's enough support to do it now. I don't know if I've convinced anybody otherwise, but I'll follow the committee lead.
Supervisor Onion?
I think to table it would slow the process. And did you I'm sorry, you're off.
So,
Did you say Ethan Gaddy is helping you with the grants?
yeah,
I have 100% confidence in Ethan Gaddy too.
I can address that.
Okay, yep.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I did just get an email from Ethan and it engineering design is definitely greatly increases your chances of getting a grant because you're able to adequately, what this does is it tells you exactly what the cost is going to be of the project. And without an engineering study, you just are basically guessing that you're estimating an amount that may or may not be correct. And so this gives you the exact amount you're going to need. And so it enhances your chances of getting a grant. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And just to be clear, the funds will not be available until the fourth quarter of 2026. Committee aware of that? Is everyone aware of that? And a grant application will be handed in pretty quick, right? But those funds will not, so you're gonna hand in a grant application. Go ahead, Heather, did you want to say something?
Were you saying to submit a grant application to us?
No, I
Okay,
was looking
sorry.
over your shoulder.
I just want to make
the
sure.
only question here is we're going to have expenditures, so we have to wait till the last quarter. Yeah, and the money is to get these plans and all done. Now, I know we can, as we say, move the chessboard around a little bit, but not until all of it, until the end of that, could be a problem. Because we have to pay for these designs and pay for this. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's the next resolution. Supervisor Runyon?
My question is, when will the city provide you with the money?
There you go.
They
It's in
already
the
have.
account, about a month ago.
Oh, okay.
Supervisor Patchett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I will just share, based on the 1.2 million, it's like, I don't know, around 50 grand of occupancy tax that just based on the numbers we've been provided that they're producing a year. And the design phase seems like it's sort of outside the scope of what the purpose of occupancy tax really should be used for. The construction phase, however, seems like, if we could help get it over the hump in a reasonable way, I mean, that's, something that would be more, I think, closer to the very purpose of OCTAX, but it just, what's the ask going to be once you get to the design phase? And it just seems like it's going to end up being another massive ask. But we're almost at the point where it's like, you can't say no kind of a request.
What's a 50,000? What was that?
They said it was 1.2 million of sales tax, occupancy tax, and what was the other thing?
Sales.
And sales tax. It was a total of 1.2. I took 4% and multiplied it by 1.2.
I don't think, that's what I was gonna say. Based on the chart, the 1.2 is the actual amount. So it would have been a greater amount.
An actual amount of OCTAX produced?
Yeah,
yearly?
combination of OCTAX and sales tax. So you don't multiply 4% by the 1.2, you multiply that by a larger number to get down to the 1.2.
Probably 35% at least, probably.
Of the 1.2.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you then. All right, well, that helps though.
It's hard to back in that number because you got a property tax number there that you don't know what it is. The city receives, Glens Falls receives 90,000, I think, of OCTAX, another 30,000. And then the part of the spending plan. So, maybe we could look at some of that moving forward too. I know you spend that in other areas, but the Civic Center is important. It's important to the city and important to the region. It's important to the city more than anybody. So maybe gotta take a look at that. At any rate, there's a motion on the floor. Any other questions? Comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carried. Resolution to authorize appropriation of funds from the OCTAX reserve. This will take 200,000 from A 88100 to A 6417. Tourism Civic Center capital costs to assist in the funding design. Need a motion made by Supervisor Runyon, seconded by Supervisor Stroud. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye, motion carried. Opposed, motion carried. Resolution request to extend the contract with North Warren Chamber of Commerce until December 31st, 2026. For three-town branding. I've had a look at that and, anyway, we'll put this motion on the floor to move this motion forward. Supervisor Runyon. Second, Supervisor Wild. And, I wish we had a little slideshow or something to show, because they're doing a really good job with it.
I mean, I think that's,
Oh,
we can't.
okay. Any further discussion on this? Supervisor Stroud?
Yeah, what's 150,000 for?
The project is for a rebrand of three towns within the Upper Warren County. And they have done a first part of that, which is to create what is called North Warren Wilds. Adventure has a cabin here, and they've created various assets according to that particular brand. And now the next part of the phase is to put these wheels in motion, get it out in the promotional area, websites, some digital ads, things like that. So it's taking it to the next phase of this process. And it's actually, I've shared it on a sidebar, I shared it with Josiah, who's doing our visitor study. And he's very excited about this opportunity because it provides a lot more recognition to the differences between what our county has to offer. We're all not cookie cutter, but we all have our own little space in the tourism industry, and feels that that'll drive a bigger portion of who distinguishes between a visitor in the North Warren Wilds. I'm gonna used to saying that, to comparison to Lake George and comparison to the city and other parts of Warren County.
It would have been nice to have a worksheet with the proposed expenditures, where the 150,000 goes and how it's gonna be spent.
This was already approved.
Yeah,
They're just asking for more time to.
Just
complete
extend it.
it.
extension.
They
Oh,
approved
we already
supplemental in
approved this,
2020.
just, oh, thank you, Paul.
Supervisor Wild, did you have a comment?
No.
Any other comments from the committee?
Right, it's no additional monies, like Paul said, it's just an extension of the time. Okay.
Yeah,
No
that-
question.
That wasn't explained.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. D, to approve the spending plan for 2026 as it applies to the towns and city of Glens Falls. This is a spending plan we do to help. We'll move this forward and we'll have discussion if we like. We need a motion to move this forward. Motion made by Supervisor Runyon, seconded by Supervisor Turner. Any further discussion? Supervisor Wild?
Spending plan. If I'm on the right topic, right?
Yeah.
This started in 2015. I think the original reason was to have some money for the smaller towns, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's certainly part of it. This came out of the negotiation with the Civic Center also, from what I understand.
So right now with our projected revenues for tax of being $8 million, 25% of that is 2 million that go to the towns. And then we're giving an extra 450,000 to the towns also.
Yes.
Like 2 million isn't enough?
I know some of the smaller towns and a lot of them apparently not.
What about the larger towns?
Well, I don't know if I'm in a position to start talking, but no, I mean, the larger towns like Lake George or Bolton, Lake George uses their money very, very efficiently and effectively, and we have more events coming in at this point than we can fund. Some big ones.
I was just hoping the committee would have something to add to this, because to me, it seems like it's a lot of additional money that the county could use for bigger projects. And there's a number of towns that are quite flush with money. But I'd like to see this modified. To some
Moving
extent.
forward, we moving forward when budget talks start, but you know, we're looking at funding a civic center again, right, for a good amount of money, and so many smaller towns can use this funding. Glens Falls could use it also. But Supervisor Stroud.
Yeah, again, we've had this conversation multiple times. This is an opportunity for your local municipalities to deal things more specifically oriented to their existence. And they have a lot more intimate knowledge of those kind of promotional OCTAX related events than the county. So the appropriation to the municipalities is appropriate for that reason. But in addition to that, all those requests made for those localities takes the burden off the county. I mean, if you added up all of those requests along with all the other requests, it would be a huge burden for the county to deal with. This way, it takes some of the burden off the county and gives it to the local municipality. Furthermore, there's some events that need more than the county's allocation, so they go to the localities and for more money to make this promotional event happen. So there's a lot of good reasons for this allocation to the municipalities.
Supervisor, go ahead. Supervisor Patchett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I hate to connect a few things, but, I was just reviewing our agenda for the Economic Growth Committee tomorrow, and there's a lot of grant requests that we're going to be dealing with that require matches, and, I don't intimately know of the 8 million, where we stand and our budget, and I know we have the Johnsburg sewer project at some point that we have to start facing into. But I'm when I look at the agenda for economic growth, and I mean, I'm concerned that I would like to definitely see all of these match grants have the monies allocated and ready and able to do that for the county, which I think would benefit the entire county as a whole. I'm supportive of the spending plan, but we just, as long as we know we can kind of make everything work, and I'm concerned about making sure we can afford both. I'd hate to be sitting in the Economic Development Committee tomorrow and have all these grant requests get voted down because we don't think we have enough money, when it's a reasonable way to spend the money. I think if we use this money for the grant matches. Just kind of some thoughts.
Thank you. Just as a side note, we've directed some applicants that had received money from the counties to go back to their towns. And I know Lake George, for example, has granted Americaid funding, and also the wine festival funding that was funded from the county previously. So we're starting to change some of that and to keep more at the county level. Supervisor Wiles.
Mr. Chairman, thank you again. I just do some quick math. 270,000 of this spending plan goes to the town and village of Lake George, Bolton, and Queensbury. When is the last time we had a look to say how much of these are totally related to tourism versus infrastructure?
I look at
across the
that.
board?
Yeah, good question. And yeah, for the town of Lake George, I look at it all the time. And for the joint OCTAX, I look at it all the time. I can't speak for the village.
And as I mentioned before, thank you, Mr. Chairman, we just had this windfall with short-term rental money, and we're not moving the needle.
Right.
Now, I recognize that a lot of these events, their expenses have gone up significantly, just like our food has gone up and everything else. I'd like to move the needle. That's all I care about, is moving the needle of tourism.
Right.
And we need to kind of pull back somewhere so we can make some bigger swings with something.
Agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Further discussion?
Does, oh,
Supervisor Patchit?
it occurred to me I didn't get permission. But, I mean, are we under the impression though that we are, you know, I gotta go back to the grants here, and are we under the impression that we have the monies to move those forward, or is that not something that we have the knowledge of in this committee?
I have a little bit, I don't know if I'm in a position to say, but there's a lot of matches out there, and I don't even know if this amount would cover it, and does it fit into, you know, the guidelines of where the committee wants to spend their OCTAX also? So, no, there's probably there are challenges there to find a match for some of those grants, dollar wise.
Okay. I mean,
I don't, Supervisor Patchit?
are we all in agreement, though, that it is an acceptable use of the dollars, that we could take some of our occupancy tax money and fund some of these grant matches? That's within the,
Well, yeah.
To provide some
I mean-
clarification, there's only certain ability to use occupancy tax fund outside of promotional and tourism related expenditures. So in some of the grant applications, which you're speaking of, which I don't have it in front of me, we might not be able to use those funds to cover those grant matches.
Right.
So there's a restriction on what we can and cannot use these funds for, based on under state law and under local law.
Yep, that's true. Supervisor Patchit?
so, but we don't have you're not necessarily saying, you know, that you can't do it either, you're just saying that it's possible one or two might not qualify.
They would have to fall under the promotional and community and tourism development criteria that's set forth under state and local law. So we'd have to look at those on an individual basis, determine whether they would fit or not. But it seems that these expenditures here would qualify, providing those to the towns in the city.
Well,
That would be an
yes, thank you, sir. I'm aware, we've been doing this for multiple years, that we're allowed to use it for this. I don't know,
Supervisor Patchit?
for me, I would like to go into the Economic Growth Committee tomorrow and see where we're at with these, when I read through them, very important projects. And then our county attorney would be able to look at them and then tell us definitively what we can and can't do. Just have some knowledge that maybe we don't have here today, it seems.
Okay. How much can I comment?
If you have comments to make, you'll have to leave the chair.
Supervisor Wild,
Yes, sir.
take my place for a minute.
Of course. Yeah, I'll make this quick. Motion to adjourn? That's it, right? Any other comments? Supervisor Cressida?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to remind the board, we just approved $200,000 for a study at the Civic Center. You also just received $150,000 to build a grandstand up north. Now we look at the supplemental funding that goes back to the towns and the village in a way that for promotion. And I could say that most of that money goes back towards promotion. So if in terms of you know, redistributing OCTAX, that's a bigger discussion. But for this right here, to cable after the spending that we just went on isn't fair to these small. This affects every town and village in the county. Yeah, everyone gets some of this to put back in to Maple Days, to some of these smaller projects. You go and say, well, Lake George is getting a lot. Lake George has events on the table that were very close to closing that are gonna ask for $275,000 of licensing fees alone. And we're gonna try and keep that in-house. We have monies waiting to be spent for the joint money that's coming this way. So just something for the whole committee to consider when we look at this big picture. If it's a time, and then you say, you know, matching funds for what's gonna come out of economic development. You know, I don't have an answer for everything, and I'm not saying we can't do it. I'm saying, you know, the budget as a whole, the county budget as a whole is challenged a little, but I'm not so sure if OCTAX is the answer to everybody's challenges. This is put for promotion, so I just wanted to add that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Supervisor Cressida, are you done with your
I am.
comments?
I'm done with
All
my.
right, I will trade chairs with you.
Thank you.
Felt like taking over, but I didn't think there was one.
Any other comments? Supervisor Batchett?
Tried to get your attention while Vinny was still sitting here. Hey, he didn't want to call on me, Mr. Chair. Oh, I appreciate everything you just said, Mr. Chair, and I certainly recognize and appreciate that Hague was just the recipient of $150,000. I'll call it an award. And when I realize that the promotion is really the key, the true purpose of everything, of putting heads in beds, and it's hard to just hit the brakes like right now in the middle going into the summer season. I would hate to see that projects that are going to really improve the county in the long term forever somehow not get funded.
Yeah.
But I do appreciate that there's a lot of good things happening and that we need to keep them moving. But I just wanted to share that it's tough decisions. Yes.
They are tough, and it's a good point. Supervisor Wiles?
Mr. Chairman, just one more thing. When I brought up this, the discussion on the spending plan, it wasn't to do something necessarily this year because that's too hard to do. All the towns already have a lot of this stuff budgeted and planned. But it's more along the lines of what is the future going to look like? And that's what I'd really like some help from.
Yeah.
Maybe the tourism department to take a look at maybe what other counties are doing and how they're doing it and what other counties. There's probably a huge percentage of our sister counties in New York State that don't have the OCTAX revenue that we do.
Right.
So how we doing? All right. Do we need to look somewhere else to find out what other best-in-class organizations are doing? That's the future, not today. Today, I'm going to support this, but I'd really like to see something in writing, maybe a new local law before the end of the year. Sure.
I'm just one person, but I can tell you, I agree with what you're saying. I look forward to hopefully being part of those conversations.
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you. Heather?
Yes, so moving on to page 23. Quick overview. First and foremost, I apologize in my first meeting. Did not give the well-deserved kudos of Maple Days and how fabulous they are doing. 2 weekends, record-breaking weekends this past weekend. So if you haven't gotten your full Maple, please, 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 you got one more weekend to go. And then if you forget again, you get to go see them individually. But try and see them individually as well as attend that event. So back on to Warren County occupancy performance for February year over year, again, using CoStar data. So we experienced a modest decline in February compared to last year. This then the sort of upside of this, which really isn't an upside for hoteliers, is they had to really play around with their rates in order to bring rates down to get customers to stay overnight. You see those in the numbers here, and to assist with this document, we actually put in the actual numbers so that you'll be able to see when you see percentages in here. You actually have the raw data here. So supply was up slightly, but demand was down 1.4. Revenue resulted in being down due to the demand. Average occupancy down as well. ADR was down, as well as average RevPAR was all down. So this was not a very good February for us. But when we look at our competitors on our competitor markets, Warren, Saratoga, Essex, Franklin, Dauphin, which is PA, Hershey and Harrisburg, and Barnstable, which is Cape Cod, just to give you a little bit of how they're pulled. We had less than severe, we didn't have as bad of a hit as our counterparts. Specifically, Saratoga took a big dive. Looking at Essex and Franklin, they are the biggest winners here. Essex, I won't say a big win, but Essex had a win. Franklin, specifically, it was a great winter for them. They're known for their snowmobiling, and when there's those big storms, and we had a lot of storms, we had a lot of snow in February. We had one huge major storm that just dumped a whole bunch of snow on us. Not necessarily speaking about New York as a whole. But when you look at these numbers, I also want to put into context, because I know last time we had percentages and it was like 50% for Franklin. Well, Franklin has 843 rooms. So for them to go to 50%, that means that last year was not a great year for them, even though it wasn't a bad winter. So just trying to put that into context. Across the board, Warren has 4,470 rooms. Essex has just shy of 4,000. Excuse me, Saratoga is just shy of 4,000. Essex has a little over 2,700. Franklin, as I said before, 843. Dauphin, they're the largest, over 9,000 rooms, and Barnstable is about 6,000 rooms. So when you look at it in comparison to that, we didn't do bad, but what it does show that winter recreation is key to the success of winter, as well as winter events. We already know that events is a key for our success here, and so we need to look at winter events as a full season, or excuse me, events in totality as an all season. So we need successful events to happen all year round, and then really push our winter recreational activities. That is what is driving the traffic in our competitive markets for tourism. Any questions?
Questions for Heather? Good job, thank you. Jessica?
Give Jessica the hard part today.
Well, we have no money. There we go. So this is the last 3 months and the projected next 3 months. So if you look at May, severely down, that's because we do all the payments to towns, the final of 2025. Which last year was about 1.6, this year it's gonna be a little bit higher. I did estimate it in here at 2 million, just to make sure everything was covered. So in order for that payment to go out by June 1st, it had to go in the end of May.
And there was a difference in last year. We had it in June and July.
It came out in
Yeah,
May.
it came out in May as
Yeah.
well. Okay, okay. So really what this is showing is to let the committee know that things go as consistently as it is with revenue and expense. We are definitely tapping into our reserves in the amount of 1.32 change, $1.3 million into the reserves of the 1.5. We're left with a little shy of $180 in the account as of the end of May.
Which I did estimate high on that, just to make sure, because we haven't got the end of 2025 numbers yet.
So I think just, we're gonna hope that miracles happen over. We will also know where we are in March, so then we can clean up those numbers that are projected for the payouts. But just as in last year, we did not announce this. We weren't watching it as closely. This year, we are letting you know, May, we're gonna tap into that. And a lot of this, remember, this is cash flow. This is not budget. So we may have to discuss when we pay things out. We may have to look at when we pay towns, you know, within those 3 different buckets that we distribute. And that could be a way to manage the cash flow in the future. But it's not something that we should look at doing mid-year when we already have municipalities planning for different expenses. But that's one way that we can look at, you know, fixing our cash flow.
The best time to pay larger expenses is really September. That's when our cash on hand is higher.
Any questions?
Questions, Jessica? Good job. Christine?
Just real quick, a little bit of positive news. A little bit more positive news.
Sorry, I didn't get this to you. I will send it out afterwards. So total collections, we are up approximately 253,000 or 3.1%. And we're at, today's the 23rd, so we still have about 10 days, 9 days in March. That'll get us to the year-end numbers. The hotels and the motels and resorts have the bigger bump. We're at 6.8 compared to 6.5 last year for an increase of 222,000 or 3.4%. STRs are up 1.6 million or at 1.6 million from 1.5 million or 30 for an increase of 2.1%. So again, last year in total, we were at 8 million. This year we're at 8.3. And we have a few more days to go. So it should go up a little bit more.
Very good. Thank you. Didn't it be privilege on the floor? Yeah, it's not on here. Privilege on the floor, public comment? Greg? Oh, it's on the back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and on behalf of the North Warren Chamber of Commerce and the Tri-Town Branding Committee, thank you very much. Part of this, and as the chairman had mentioned to the Civic Center before, these funds do not become available to us until the end of the year, and they need to be financed up in front. Last year, this committee had approved the $150,000. It was $50,000 from each town. Each town's board had supported the grant request. We were able to expend $66,000 in 2025. But that left the money on the table. So the grant the award that you had approved today was not it was a renewal of a $150,000 contract with about $94,000 left to spend. We are very happy with the results. We would love to come back and show you our results. Heather has some of the promotional materials here. We have Sean McGee from Trampoline Design. Sean and Amanda have done a beautiful job working with our committee. We have Christine Powers from the town of Johnsburg. Our committee was made up of 3 representatives of each town, Horicon, Chester, and Johnsburg. And together we came up and are very satisfied with what is the product so far. And now it's a matter of really getting it out there. And as Heather had mentioned, it will be for a website. It'll be for signage, wayfinding through our towns. We're very excited about this. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you. Anybody else? Gary?
Gary Carpus, Lake George RV Park. I just wanted to follow up. from an outside view, it seems like there's some confusion among committee members here on what the OCTAX is for even. Even the discussion here from an outsider seems like you all aren't really clear on what this is for or the law or how it all affects everything. So that's concerning to me. As far as the law goes, it seems like the law does get bent sometimes for things if they are considered urgent. You know, I don't want to bring up again, Johnsburg sewer, things like that. The law seems to be bent when it needs to handle these urgent things, but then the law kind of comes back when we have to do other things. I would strongly support, and I've said this for over a year, that we put some guardrails on some of the spending and have a firm idea of what can be used for OCTAX and what can't. I don't think every committee member understands the law completely or how it can. This is just from an outside view. And as far as the county attorney, I would like to see the county attorney step in more often on the law. I mean, the law is clear, and I just don't understand this kind of double standard. The other thing that I would say in closing is that a lot of these events that come to your committee do a lot of research and present you with a lot of really good information on what they're going to do, how their event's going to, put heads in beds, how the event's going to help the area. You run these guys through the ringer, and cut their funding, yet someone walks in and says, I need this, I don't have any really good data, and you approve the funding. I mean, it sends a mixed message to the tourism community, and it isn't a great message. My only final comment on the Civic Center, I know it's been approved and all of that. The Civic Center, in my opinion, is not going to go away. When the Civic Center was bought in 2014, this board, who again is very well-connected board, business leaders, know how to navigate, know how to do a business plan, knew of all the issues with the Civic Center when they bought it. And they can certainly formulate a plan. They have also connections within the state to get funding as well. It's not just a local situation. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary. Anybody else like to address the board? Motion to adjourn. Oh, Jack. We'll squeeze that in, Jack.
Just quickly, I just wanted to address the committee itself and confirm some things that were mentioned earlier. Mr. Moore did say that the lease agreement with the Civic Center was about $600,000 versus 1 million. That is correct. That's what the agreement was. But I wanted to thank this committee today for making a decision, the right decision. Mr. Stroud, Supervisor Stroud, brought up the fact that if we don't fund this study, this engineering degree, we certainly are not going to be able to apply for the grant. He was spot on with that point. And going forward, I think that, the Civic Center is not going to go away, but in reality, there's a bottom line to that building. And as we all know, that I experienced back in my 9.5 years as the mayor of the city of Glens Falls, we could not afford to continue to undertake the building. And I'm going to say today, as I said back then, I would have closed the building. But now the building itself is on great footing. We've got a core group of new tenants moving into the city of Glens Falls. We have a core group of new living downtown in the city of Glens Falls. We have a strategically located parking garage for the Civic Center. So I see nothing but positives coming out of that building for the near future. And I want to give the board again a thank you note for their support on a decision that was made today. So thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Anybody else? Motion to adjourn. Motion made by Supervisor Grunion, seconded. Who seconded it? Supervisor Turner? All in favor? Aye.